How's it going, everybody? So today I thought I would upload a trophy I just had with Amulet Titan, a deck I'm pretty familiar with. This is going to be a pretty deep replay analysis because I have the deck in paper. I played it at SAG Con Pittsburgh, I think, something like that. I went there with my friend, and it was a really good time. So I'm not like the biggest primetime grinder, certainly out there, but I definitely have some experience with the deck. And I just thought, I'd do a replay of like just a trophy like I had, testing out some new stuff. I guess before I show you the replay, I'll show you the deck I was running. That sounds like a good idea. So, sideboard is a little different than anything I've done before. I was trying some new cards. I'm playing Turn the Earth, which I've never played before um, in Modern. But it was still, like, it ended up being pretty good. Engineering Exposed is pretty standard. A lot of the stuff is honestly not that crazy. I like 3 Dismember a lot. I like 3 Tireless Tracker a lot. Extra Beseiju is debatable, but it's pretty useful. Cavern of Souls also is debatable. I don't know if I used it in the leagues, but it is like I see a place for it. Um, and so I thought I'd just talk through the deck. The base deck is pretty standard, except you'll find two things that are kind of weird. Not stock. I have a Bojuka Bog and a Radiant Fountain in the main deck. The list I went from at first had the Bog in it, and I think the land that enters the battlefield and produces a mana of any color and then untaps for colorless. Crumbling Vestige, I think is the name of it. And I just wasn't super crazy about that. I didn't like not having Radiant Fountain in the deck and only having Bog in it. I think Radiant Fountain is super, super useful. So I made that change. And then I 5-voted with it. The first league I played with, I noticed a huge difference not having Radiant Fountain. Um, and so after making that change, I don't think it actually like mattered in any of the games I played. But it was always nice just knowing I have a Radiant Fountain. So we'll see. I will. Let's see. I am gonna tab over to the first game now, um, and we can take a look from there. So this is the first game, and again, I am going to just what's the word? This is going to be a pretty in-depth replay, I will say. Can't pause it. Okay, it's paused. That's weird. Um, can you like go back? I don't know. Whatever. Is there like like an undo? Like go back? Yeah, whatever. Um, so ignore this card. This is my opening hand. It looks like. I am. I did play this league over a few days. I think I played like 3 games and then 2 games. I had some health issues over Thanksgiving. I spent like a couple hours in the hospital on Thanksgiving. Um, like 7. Lame. But whatever. So this league all isn't one day. Some exciting stuff in this league, by the way. Just throwing it out there. I played against Aspiring Spike, and I had a really, really good trophy game. That game was really exciting. I'm really excited for that to show you guys that match. But yeah, it was a good league. Um, and so I guess we'll just start. I'm not used to the replay function if I'm being honest, but I saw Demonic Tutors doing a lot of replay analysis lately, and I like it. So I'm going to get into showing you guys kind of the replay. So we see a Bloodstained Mire, our opponent's leading on. And let's see what I do. So I lead on a Boreal Grazer getting in the Saga here because I really want to threaten the second Amulet early. Also, with the way I've tapped this, I can... First of all, this ticks up turn 1, which is awesome. Having the Saga get starting turn 1 is awesome. But I have 2 ways of getting Dryad into play here. So I can either just play the Slayer Stronghold and then play the Dryad, but also I can tap the Saga, play the Amulet of Vigor, and then Selesnya Sanctuary, Dryad, Selesnya Sanctuary again, pick up the Forest potentially. I have a lot of options here. This is a really strong start, which is why I led on the Grazer, because getting the W Amulets in play seems really strong. And my opponent doesn't do anything. So the Saga ticks up, and we're going to do the line I was talking about here. We play the Amulet of Vigor, and then we start bouncing the Selesnya Sanctuary. This lets us put the Dryad into play really early and sets us up for a really strong next turn, because we're going to have the 2 Amulets in play and a Dryad. So that's why I bounced the Selesnya Sanctuary, because coming next turn, so they do Beseiju the first Amulet, which is fine, because they're not getting our Urza Saga. It is unfortunate how the tapping went down, that I don't get to make a construct, but I don't think it's a huge deal. But so they kill our amulet, but we still have our Urza Saga ticking up. Urza Saga represents a lot of value, and it gets us another amulet in a second. Because we really just want the one amulet when the Titan comes down. We bounce the Selesnya Sanctuary here because we have the potential of 2 amulets, so that means each bounce land is 4 mana. And we have a Dryad in play, so we get 2 land drops. But even just with the 1, we're still in a better position having it in play than not having it in play. Assuming the Urza Saga resolved, which is what I assumed. They Thoughtseize away my Titan, and then they cling to try to draw another card. What do they cling? The replay feature goes kind of fast. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that was pretty fast. So they cling another card. I float a mana from the Saga, so I can Titan, and then I get another Amulet of Vigor. I shouldn't have floated this. Oh, okay. I was thinking to myself, I was like, I shouldn't have floated all that mana like that, and then I unfloat it. Play my Saga, grab my stuff, get Summoner's Pact for Titan. Once I have Titan here, it's a really easy win. You go Boros Garrison, Slayer Stronghold, and my opponent packs it in. Nothing crazy there. I grabbed Vesuva, because I already had the Slayer Stronghold in play, so I had to copy the Slayer Stronghold, and then with the Boros Garrison, I'm able to give the Titan haste and vigilance. So I swing for 8, I get Valakut, hit them for 12, they're dead. So, not a big deal. Also, even if I don't have Dryad in play, and they're like actually dead on board, like how they are right now, if you resolve a Titan, you just don't lose. Like, you don't lose, really. There's always the potential to lose, but like it's just not happening there. So like don't even resolve all my triggers. But that was game 1. Very, very quick game 1. Barely saw what my opponent was doing, but there's some kind of rock deck or whatever. So keep that in mind when we're sideboarding. Okay, so now we're in game 2. It is very obvious that we're against some kind of discard deck, some kind of rock deck, and we are going second. So how do I board? I board out the Cavern of Souls because they're not a blue deck. I think there's 3 in the main deck. So we get rid of those. We don't bring in the extra Boseiju because we have 2 in the main deck and then 1 on the side. The Radiant Fountain also gets removed. So these are 4 of my cuts right here. For 4 of my cuts, what did I bring in? So it looks like I brought in an Endurance, the 2 Turn the Earths, and then I don't know what the other card is. Endurance, 2 Turn the Earth, and then like 1 Tireless Tracker, it looks like. I think that's what it was. Okay. Anyways, so this hand's amazing. We're definitely going to keep this, I assume. They lead on an Inquisition, take an Amulet. That's pretty obvious. It's our turn now. So I think we just go Forest Amulet here. Yeah, Forest Amulet. And they suspend a Profane Tutor. Oh my god, I forgot about that. So we see Profane Tutor, and we're not really scared at all. Again, this is like our second time. This is like we haven't really seen them cast a lot of spells, honestly. We don't really know what their game plan is, but this gives me like a much better idea that there's some kind of they could be some kind of like Emotron deck. Maybe they're just using the Profane Tutor as like a value target, but that really sets us up to do some shenanigans this turn. So we play the Selesnya Sanctuary, and we get to get our Dryad in play after this, which is awesome. So get Dryad in play, get to cycle these Explores. So when you have an Amulet in play, and you have a bounce land, all of your bounce lands cycle Explores. So that's what we're going to do. And so we find the prime time. That's the payoff. And so currently we can't really efficiently get a Titan into play. But next turn with bounce land and Dryad, theoretically we could, because it would be 4 mana. We'd have bounce land, pick up the bounce land, pick up the bounce land, that's 4 mana with Dryad in play and an Amulet. So what we're going to do here, I think, is we are going to turn the Earth, and then probably keep the Arboreal Grazer in our hand, just have another bounce. Yeah, so that's exactly what we're doing. So with Dryad in play, this can get a green, so it's not totally useless. And then Knight's Whisper is just packing it in. I don't need to. Obviously, we win the game because it's a 5-0 league, but like the play kind of writes itself here. Not only do we draw the Growth Chamber, which is the better land by a little bit, just in case we draw like a Teleria West, but like it's really easy from here. We have bounce land, play a Titan. With the Amulet in play, we get to swing with haste, and then we get to Valakut. Like it's really free from here. I think they pack it in before I even finish. And they can't play like Endurance here to stop us. They can't play, Subtlety to stop us here. There's nothing really for them at this point, and they pack it in. Pretty quick game 1 and 2. I mean, like, not even 10 minutes on the clock for both of us, but that's how it goes. I will see you guys for the second game of the league. So this is game 1 of the second league. We lose the die roll. And let's see what our starting hand is. I'm trying to pause it so I can see. It goes so fast, or I don't know if I'm going to keep the hand or not. You know what I mean? Like, I have to click it so fast. In the future, I might not use the replay feature, but again, I saw Demonic Tutors use the replay feature, and I liked it, so I thought I'd give it a try. I don't know if people want, like, in-depth review of, like, Amulet Titan plays or anything, but I thought this might be useful. So we keep this, I guess? I can't tell. So I do keep this hand. This hand's kind of sus. Can I move my cards? I can move my cards, thank God. So the strength of this hand is in the unknown. Man, this hand actually does kind of suck. I don't like this hand, actually. I'm kind of surprised I kept this. Sometimes you just have to keep as Titan. Did they ever reveal a Companion? They didn't even reveal a Companion. Sometimes you just have to keep as Titan because you'll just get there. Which might have been just what I did here. But I mean, when you go 5-0, like, there is like an element of luck to it, if I'm being honest. Like, you can have a win percentage of like 55%, which is good. But 55% is never gonna 5-0. Like, you're not gonna win 5 matches in a row. There's a lot of luck in that, obviously. And you can manipulate luck and magic a lot, but it's still there. So I'm guessing I keep here and I find an untapped green source, because the real issue with this hand is that currently, how do I have a green source on 2 for Explore? I don't. Cavern of Souls is a green source for creatures, but it's not for lands. So I could play T-West, and then I can't do anything. I could leave on Saga, and then I can't do anything, which is probably what I would do, not knowing what I'm going to play. I'm not going to make now, not knowing what my opponent is doing. I would probably play Saga just to get the Amulet in as soon as possible. But, I mean, you also have Cultivator Colossus in hand, and you don't have any early action, so I don't really like this hand. But I did keep it, and then I'm getting Grief Ephemerated, which honestly makes me feel less bad about keeping this. So maybe, Max, who was playing this game 1, was thinking some good thoughts, because he had no idea this was happening. I'm just making sure this isn't a boarded game at all. Yeah, there's no board. Max knew that he could be playing against some Grief scam stuff, and just kept the value. So Dryad's a great draw. I do play the Saga on 1, as we talked about before, getting the Amulet in early. Also, if we do want to pick it up to get the Saga tokens at some point, we can just pick it up with Bounce Land. What do they do? Oh, they're Living End. This is a Living End matchup. Okay. So Living End matchup, honestly, I think I make a play here that I wasn't sure of, but I saw someone else do, and I kind of liked it. I think what I did is I stopped playing spells so that I could discard the hand size to kind of hit the Living End. So yeah, don't find anything good. I mean, I theoretically could Cavern of Souls for Beast and play that, but I don't. And then here, they just cycle. And then I'm gonna pick up an Amulet, which is very useful. And then I think I put the Prime Time in the yard. I put the Cultivator Colossus in the yard. That can't be right. I definitely should have put the Prime Time in there. I'm gonna stop having it go so fast now. So now I have an Amulet in play. If they ever Living End. By the way, this is probably a really bad play. I just didn't think about it that much, and I didn't get punished at all when I was playing the game. I think my opponent was a little generous on that. But, like, my opponent could have turned 3 Living End, and then they get Grief, Architect of Will back in play, and I'm just like, that's game. Like, how do I beat that? Like, they fate seal my next 3 draws, take a card from my hand, and then I have nothing, and I just missed like 2 drops. I really shouldn't win this game, but I probably do. Now, because like the living end is always terrible. But Cultivator Colossus in the yard is great because it just draws you so many cards, and it's such a big creature at a certain point. But now I'm going to actually start playing spells. So it looks like I'm probably going to just explore cycle here. So Grazer, so I am kind of doing that. I'm doing Grazer into probably Selesnya Sanctuary. Oh, no. This was a really good play by me. I would have made a mistake if I did what I was talking about before. Um, Putting the Dryad into play plays around Force of Negation. So if I play Explore, not only do I like Stone Rain myself or like time walk myself, right? Because I don't have any lands in play, and I just tried to spend 2 mana to get this cycle with Explore, but I don't gain anything. But if I play the Dryad, that doesn't happen. Yeah. So get my Dryad in, which is perfect. Still play Selesnya Sanctuary. Now I think I try to Explore. And then I play a land to keep in play for next turn. I'm in a really decent spot for next turn. I can't actually Titan next turn, but that's fine. My opponent just doesn't do anything. Actually, wow. I feel like I kind of got gifted this game, if I'm being honest. I do not make the play I made. As far as like, I think like discarding to hand size against Living End is kind of good in some instances, but like here it would have been terrible. Like if they just ever cast a Living End, I lose, because they could have they had their turn 3 to Living End me, and I don't get anything back in the yard. I have nothing in hand. I have no permanents in play except like an amulet. It would have been really bad. And so I'm just playing this to get a land into play. I pick up the T-West to cycle it later. Swing with the 2/4. And now next turn I can Titan, but they could always Living End to kill my creature. But now I get a Cultivator Colossus in play, so it's not that bad. And so here I go for Titan. With the Dryad in play, it's just Boros Garrison and the Selesnya Sanctuary twice is enough to prime time. I have no risk of getting counterspelled against them game 1 or Subtlety'd. I don't think they main deck Subtlety at least. I didn't play around as they did. Get Vesuva to copy the Boros Garrison, give the Titan haste. This kind of gets punished by them Living Ending, but again I get the Cultivator Colossus back. I draw 4 cards, so at least 4 cards, right? Because I draw a land every time I draw a card every time I put a land down, so I get 3 redraws and another card, and I just get to keep churning through the deck like that. Get the 2 Valakets just to set up for next turn. I have the Summoners Pact into play. I won. I have the Summoners Pact in play, so I have the Titan already. It's really easy to get a Titan from this position, because no matter how I tap my lands with 1 land drop, I can get a Titan. Even if they kill the Amulet, I have Titan. With the 2 Valakets in play, I also have 2 Axes to attack now. I can either Summoner's Pact for another Dryad, and then just play lands, and just start like beaming them down. Because say I play Titan, and they, I don't know, Living End me once I play it or something, and I have nothing, I can still get the Valakut triggers to go over to face when they're already at 7. They're really low. So it's pretty easy to win here. I don't think that needs much explaining. But my opponent packs it in before I have to do anything else here. I really feel like I got gifted this game, though. I really feel like I should have lost this game based on just watching the replay. Good to watch your replays for stuff like that, because, like, looking back at it, why would I risk, like, the turn 3 Living End into just instant lose? I mean, I don't know. A little loose on that one, but I will see you guys in the next round. For the post-board game, let's just take a look at our sideboard before and after, just so we know. So I have Bojuka Bog. I think I'm probably cutting the Cavern of Souls to make space for other stuff, because the only counterspell they play is Force of Negation, and Cavern doesn't help with that. I bring in the Turn of Earths, I assume, the Endurance, and then keep the Bog in. So I think it's just cut the Cavern of Souls, bring in these 3 cards. But we'll see. Okay, let's go into the next round. So, 1 going second. Let's see our opening hand. I think if I just tap play and then pause it, it will like not show the next phase. So our turn one hand is pretty rough, not perfect, but we also can't do the just don't play anything and then like how you'd play Dredge, just discard the hand size if we mulligan. But I think I keep this hand with Turn the Earth in play and just hope for the best. I could see myself keeping this. I don't have a green source right now, but I mean I have Azusa and T-West. I could honestly see myself mulliganing this too. Trying to think of let's see what I do. I think both lines are reasonable. I mean I don't have a green source, but I do have 3 turns to find a green source and I have 30 lands in play. How did I board? Yeah, I just cut the Cavern of Souls. I think we did exactly what we talked about. So just cut the 3 Cavern of Souls. No more Endurances in the board, and then Turn the Earth turn play. I think I mulligan this. Yeah, I do mulligan this. And I think that is the right play, just because I don't have a green source. And I don't really have a direction with that hand either. That is also pretty terrible, huh? I guess I have 2 Sagas, so I could put back like a Growth Chamber, and then I have 2 Sagas in play. I do that, it looks like. One advantage of this kind of hand against like the Living End deck is they're going to run discard spells, like Grief at least. So keeping a land heavy hand does kind of give you a little bit of game in that sense. We have Summoner's Pact for an Endurance if we really need it. But I mean, I also just have double Saga and then like good Growth Chambers. The Seiju's a good draw in case they have any kind of hate. Also, it's just an untapped green source, like it's a pretty free land to play. So turn 1 Saga to try to get the Amulet down as fast as possible. My opponent haven't played anything yet, probably just double cycling or like Wake Curve Wavesing. We draw another T-Lest, and I just played second Saga. When you don't really have a direction with your hands, and again, keep in mind what I said about like, you have a lot of lands, like you kind of just like, Urza Saga is a spell, right? Like it's barely a land, it's a spell, but it can't be discarded. In this instance, I just think it's good to like try to get amulets as many as we can. We already mulliganed. If they force a Vigor us, it kind of sucks, but I don't think they play Force of Vigor. Really, I think the only way we can win this game from this position is just cheesing them out with amulets. And getting 2 amulets in play lets us Titan really easily. Let's see, so let's play. I think they're just double cycling here probably. Plus, I mean, there's so many things we could be weak to where I feel like we just have to play. Yeah, so they do Wake Curve Waves. But I mean, like, they board Subtlety into these matchups, and Subtlety is really, really killer sometimes for us. And they have Force of Negation still for the Summoner's Pact, so this is a really rough spot where you kind of just want your Urza Sagas to generate as much value as you can with picking up the amulets early. So how they play, we know they can't do the thing this turn. So with that in mind, I think I go for a Bog here. I think I float a mana off of this to get an Expedition map, tap 2 to get Expedition map to get me the Bog, so I can exile their graveyard, which isn't perfect because it's at sorcery speed, so they could always just cycle in response. But knowing that they couldn't do it this turn, I know they can do it next turn, because why else would they keep that hand? So I want a Bog to get rid of all the permanents that were in there. So I exile like 4 creatures that would kill me in 1 turn. In the process of doing that, I also find an amulet, which is nice, because you see what you draw before you play it, but I know I'm going to have the second amulet now either way, which is good. And now I know I don't die if they do it like on my turn, like I don't die instantly. Because if I just play like they don't have it, they're representing lethal damage to me, I'm assuming. I don't actually know right now, but I'm assuming I did that math. 5, 8, 10. So they're hitting me for 17. So they can, I play Titan, get lands. They Living End me in response. So it's bad because they can Living End. I'm really weak to Living End at instant speed, but I'm also really weak to Subtlety. So I'm weak to 2 spells that way, and I just don't think it's worth the risk. So they just Wake Curve Waves again, which is, again, kind of the issue with the bog in the first place is that it's at sorcery speed, so they still get to like refill their graveyard a little bit. But now if they just like go for it right here, I still have a couple turns to mess with. I have 3 turns to mess with. And they don't, so I think, okay, so they can do it at instant speed. So, float the mana, get an amulet. With the second amulet, I can Titan here, I think. Play the second one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm actually just short of Titaning here. So the reason why I go for the Summoner's Pact there, as you kind of saw it play out, is they have to force it, right? Um, and I will die currently as we see on the board if the force resolves because I can't get Titan, but I can get Dryad, I can get Azusa, I can get other ways to keep me alive. Um, but they don't know like what I have in hand. Like I could have a way to play. Like I have an Explore, and Explore nets me mana now. So they have to force that, or I could win. In their eyes. But this sequencing, I don't have to pay for the pack next turn. I get to cycle for a T West. Next turn I can Titan, and I get to pick up another pack. So it's really safe because I have 2 T West in play. The way I float is 4 mana. I can spend it to get the T West cycled to pick up another Summoner's Pact. Um, they used a Force, which is good because it clears the way for next turn. But also, it was a really low penalty for me. The only penalty in this instance is if they have Subtlety. Because if I pack, the pack resolves, they can Subtlety the creature I tutor for, and I lose because I can't pay for it. But I mean, you just can't play around everything. There's weaknesses to this play. But this way, I bait the Force out of their hand, basically. And I set myself up for next turn. I pick up the Bog. I have, Titan possibilities next turn. And I can do the same thing again next turn. If they have another Force, I do the same thing because I have another Teleria West. And since they hard cast Force, they're not playing Living End. So at this point, I'm thinking they don't have Living End and they don't have Subtlety, which is great. Or at least they don't have Violent Outburst. They might have the Shardless Station at sorcery speed, but they don't have instant speed. And they just keep Wakers of Waving. So I Summoner's Pact again, and I kind of walked through the decision process again, but I'll do it one more time. So I have 2 amulets at play. Every bounce land is 4 mana. They counter it, fine. I get to cycle a T West anyways, get another one for next turn, and I get to develop my lands potentially. Not in this instance because I don't have anything else to go off of. Like I only have lands. I don't have like an Explorer or anything. But I don't really lose anything except the T West. But trading a T West for a Force of Negation is really good. And they have to like pitch a cast at this time. I don't think they have Subtlety based on how they played last turn, because they could have killed me if they had Subtlety, because I just can't pay the Tithe. So this is really good to lead on again. It resolves, get Prime Time, do my little land dance, get 6 lands. Or sorry, get 6 mana. Bounce the Growth Chamber. And they have Subtlety. So I don't know if they drew it off of the Waker of the Waves or in their draw step. But based on how I described my plays before, I thought I was playing around Subtlety. Force of Negation doesn't beat me. It just delays me a turn. But Subtlety does beat me because I can't pay the Tithe next turn. Unfortunately, I do lose this one. But I think my decision making was pretty solid because they could have beat me last turn with Subtlety. So if the Waker of Waves, first of all, only shows them 2 cards. They saw 3 cards. They only played 2 Subtlety, I think. I think this was like my best reasoning to win because they don't have instant speed Living End based on their last turn. Subtlety they could have killed me with the turn before anyways, as they're killing it with me now. And then also another Force of Negation doesn't really do anything because I can just cycle as an activated ability, so I'm playing around a counterspell there. So unfortunately they had it, but I'm happy with how I played that, and I think that I think my keep was sus, but based on like the situation I put myself in, I think my play was like pretty reasonable because I kind of like process of elimination my way into what they could have. And they just, I think, drew the subtlety, basically. But I will go on to the next game. Because, you know, it was a close one, honestly. But I will see you guys for game 3. So, game 3. We get to go first here. Our hand is a little sus, but it has so much good stuff where I'm probably keeping this. Honestly, good stuff with Titan, I most of the time keep. I could see myself doing the cute little thing where I discard a hand size here, and I think I do, because I don't really have anything I want to do here. So let's see if I keep. I do keep, because this card's good, and I am just passing. So next turn, I basically do the Dredge strat, where you discard the hand size. So I'm discarding a Titan to hand size next turn. Yeah. And they're just cycling. But here's the thing. They can cycle all they want, but a Street Wraith, 5/5, and a 4/4 do not beat a Titan. Titan just always wins. Drawing the Forest was also really good because it lets me play Grazer. So I get to play Forest into Grazer into probably an Urza Saga here. And so now I'm set up really well for next turn because I can explore and I can potentially play a Dryad, which would be awesome. Cycle, cycle. And again, if they ever Living End, I'm in a great spot because I get to put a Titan into play, which is exactly what happens here. And so now I get to search for lands. God, sorry, I wanted... No. Why didn't it pause? I wanted to talk through my decision making. I'm so sorry. I wanted it to let me explain like what I wanted to do there. But okay. So let's talk about it. So Titan ETPs, active player, non-active player, or non-active player, active player, whatever it is. Order their triggers. So their Architects of Will happens after I search my library for lands. So they get to, you know, like Fate Seal my next draw, which is fine. And they don't really have a good sense of my hand because it's like turn 3, so it's not a huge deal. But they do get to Fate Seal me. I get Boros Garrison and Selesnya Sanctuary, so that I can, or sorry, not Boros Garrison and Slayer Stronghold, so that I can attack with Titan next turn, get 2 more lands, and ESAC and Vigilance to be on defense and offense. So they Fate Seal me. Play the Shardless Agent. Then it looks like it's coming around on my turn. And so then, let's see what I draw here. So I draw another Summoner's Pact, and then it's really just a question of sequencing here. So I can take my whole turn to activate the Slayer Stronghold. Or I can play the Dryad. Kind of a tough decision, actually. I think I want to pressure them because I think I have to race here. So I'm assuming I just set myself up for next turn, like get a Radiant Fountain and swing. I'm pretty sure I just swing with the Titan first here. Yeah, I do swing with Titan. Because, so the way that they don't really have good blocks is it's an 8/6. Where I'm still like trading up here, right? Like both of our cards go to the graveyard, but my card's better in the graveyard. I'm swinging with Vigilance and I get to tutor 2 lands. So I get Valakut. Again, I wish the replay was a little bit slower so I could like kind of talk about this. So looking at the board, so currently they have 8, 12, 15, 17 damage. They can't Violent Outburst based on their lands, so I am not dead on board. I could be dead to a Violent Outburst, but end step, there's no like trickery they have right now. There's nothing that's gonna pump them end of turn. There's nothing that's gonna change the math end of turn. If they block, it's favorable for me. If they don't block, it's also fine because next turn with the Valakuts, I can win with Dryad, and I also have a way to win with. I have multiple Dryads, so one removal spell doesn't even do it. Like if they Subtlety the first Dryad, I still get to play the second one. So by swinging, if they just take all 2 and they go to 9, they're dying to the Valakuts, which is why I conclude that the Valakuts are the best lands to grab there. Because now I have 2 axes of attacking on. I can Summoner's Pact for another Titan and kill them that way. Or I can have 2 Dryads, which is good through a Subtlety. It's good through like a Dismember or some other nonsense they could have. It's good against the like destroy an element or like destroy an enchantment card. It's just so safe to have the 2 Dryads here, where going over their face is probably how I'm going to end this game. Explore, play this. So again, just setting myself up for next turn, it looks like, because I led on the attack. They take the 9 damage, so knowing I led on the attack, I don't want to play anything else. I don't want to commit to the board. I just want to allow myself to have guaranteed lethal next turn. And so the easiest way to do that, because again, the Titan can block now, so I'm not even taking 17, is I want to shoot them in the face with the Valakets. So I have 2 Dryads that is very, very safe against any of the interaction they could have there. Because it beats a subtlety, it beats a lot of stuff. Force of Vigor, all kinds of stuff, honestly, here. And then I still have a Titan to attack with again next turn. They do find a red source, so I have to block here, because I could die to Violent Outburst. Brazen Borrower is annoying, but doesn't really do anything here. But I am in a position where I could die next turn. So I float this for an amulet, and just see what they do. I cast the first Dryad. So in this instance, they don't have priority, so they can't currently Force of Vigor me. But I play the second Dryad when I tap correctly. I play the second Dryad. Now when I play a land, they are taking 6, and I just if they were to Force of Vigor me here, right, and kill both my Dryads, I can still wish for another Dryad. I can still Summoner's Pact for a Dryad. And then I don't think I would win, but I could definitely complicate the board pretty well. But I'm still in a pretty good spot. Let me see. I'm just trying to think. I don't know. I'm pretty all in on this line. The only thing this is bad against is Force of Vigor, but they don't even have it. So it's fine. Play the bounce land, and then I win here. I think this was the safest line, the Dryads, because it's only bad against Force of Vigor, but the Dryads is better against Subtlety, and since they bounced the Titan, I think it's pretty likely they could have a Subtlety. But with double Dryad, it's really hard for them to have one thing that beats me except exactly Force of Vigor. But I don't even think they play that, so I'm not sure. But I mean, I'm happy with this sequencing. I mean, you like literally can't always beat everything, but I think this removes our most outs. We're not weak to Subtlety here. We're not weak to... they can't, like, Living End us again. They could Brazen Borrower another Titan. They could Brazen Borrower another Dryad, but they can't get rid of 2, just based on what I think they're going to have in their deck. But so that's... I think this is match 2's final result, so we're 2-1 right now. And the next game is against Aspiring Spike, who I'm a huge fan of on Magic the Gathering content. I watch a lot of his streams and stuff. I don't know if I was watching when I was playing this league, but generally, when you play against like a YouTuber or something like that, like Aspiring Spike, you kind of have an advantage because you might have a better idea of what he's playing than what you're playing. So I just shouted out, I'm like, hey, I'm playing Titan, just to like kind of even that playing field a little bit before we made any kind of mulliganing decisions or anything like that. And they're playing Ironclast, we know they're playing some kind of blue-red thing. We are going first. I think the first time this league, which is nice. So let's see what our starting hand is. So this is our starting hand. It's terrible. We can't keep it. We have 1 land. So we will mulligan this back. And it looks like we keep this. I want to just see what this... Okay, this doesn't actually do anything. It just showed the chat like all at once, but this was happening like over the course of the game. And so we put back something. I can't see what it is. Oh well. To keep this hand. Is it going to be bugged like this the whole game now? That's really annoying. I'm going to restart this really quick. I can't believe it does it. It just like... What? It's just like grayed out the whole match now? So what am I putting back? So, double Summoner's Pact, this card, this card. It's probably just the second Summoner's Pact. It is the second Summoner's Pact. But now I know that for sure. I couldn't tell for sure because it was like it doesn't show it anywhere here, it looks like. But whatever, it's fine. We lead on the Sun Home, so we can play the Amulet, and we can lead into the Selesnya Sanctuary next turn. We keep the Bog, by the way, because people who don't know the Ironclad, they do, or what is it called? Ironclast. There is some graveyard stuff they could use. I mean, like Darcy, Emery, stuff like that. You know, there's tons of ways they can use their graveyard as a resource, so Bog isn't useless here. It's actually pretty useful at times. There's another card that Bog is good against, Mishra's Research Factory. It has an unearth cost, so we can get rid of, you know, that additional card advantage from them. We draw Urzasog off the top, and that does kind of take priority over us because we want to be able to get our second amulet in as soon as possible so we can wish for the Titan. Also, against their deck, it's very possible just the constructs will be very useful because the Ironclast, they have to win through combat damage. Like they're gonna be swinging at us, so having big blockers against a bunch of tokens can be useful, assuming they don't have like infinite tokens, but they won't for at least the first few turns. So they just got their affinity up. They could have a counterspell here, so I think I do just opt into making a construct because we want the we want to get the second amulet before we commit anything. We draw a second Summoner's Pact, which is crazy because that's like our third Summoner's Pact in our top like 10 cards or something. But whatever. I don't think I realized that in the game, but I'm realizing that watching the replay. So we can bounce the Selesnya Sanctuary for 2 mana to make a construct, which I think is what I'm going to opt into doing here. And that allows them to Unholy Heat it, obviously, but I don't have another way of leading up the mana currently with how my hand is. But it does kind of like let me bait him potentially into committing resources on this turn so I can go off next turn. So we will do our little mana dance here to make a construct, return the Selesnya Sanctuary to my hand so I can bounce it next turn when I'll have 2 amulets in play so I can Titan, because float, Selesnya Sanctuary, you have a Titan. Potentially, assuming that the Summoner's Pact resolves. They fetch, and they do Galvanic Blast, my guy, and then just draw off of the Research Factory, which is fine. They find Ironclast, which is honestly really good for me, because I plan on basically winning the game next turn, and if this baits them into not holding up a counterspell, that's awesome. Let's see, draw their card off of that, play the Bauble. They do slam the Iconoclast, which makes sense. Shock at another land. 1 mana. I don't know what they're playing. They could play a Spell Pierce, I guess. So I can float the mana off of this, get the next amulet, and then just like hard cast the Summoner's Pact. Try to think of how I'm sequencing this is worse or better. I'm actually like learning stuff about watching my own replay too, which is kind of hilarious. So now I can play the Summoner's Pact and they can Spell Pierce it, and then I theoretically wouldn't be able to Titan, but I have the second one. But also, based on how I'm sequencing, I could pay for it by playing the Arboreal Grazer, because the Arboreal Grazer, I can play the Selesnya Sanctuary and that pays for 2, right? Use one of these mana. I go to 5. Play the Grazer. Sanctuary gets me 4. So I could also pay for it if they have a Spell Pierce. So I have 2 ways to play around Spell Pierce here, which they don't have Spell Pierce. So I'm winning here. For sure. I think they just pack this in, honestly. I don't know what 1 mana blue card they could have that would stop me here. Other than Spell Pierce, but I have good outs to Spell Pierce. Because I can pay the 2, get the Titan, and then I have the mana floating. Or I can just play the second one. So I was in a really solid position there either way. I mean, 2 amulets in play turn 3, or turn 4, sorry. It's really hard to lose, honestly. But so that was game 1. We're going to go into game 2 now. Game 2 against Spike. Let's see again. So, it's kind of slow. I mean, it has amulets, obviously great, but I don't have an untapped greed source. I am going second. I assume I keep this, because this is a spicy hand. Yeah, this is a spicy hand. It's the kind of hand where, like, you gotta draw a little bit into it. I mean, you have a slow amulet here, because I have to bounce this, and then I can. Well, I guess I can play Amulet Bounce. No, this hand's actually just amazing. I don't know what I'm saying. This hand's amazing. What am I saying? Everything's perfect. Bounce this, play this. We're cycling the Explorers here. Really important in these instances, by the way. You want to make sure you play the same bounce land so you don't give additional information. Like, obviously, I could play Gruul Turf or Simic Growth Chamber, but it's just important not to give additional information if you don't have to. Sorry, my girlfriend just texted me something funny. So really make sure you want to hide information as best as you can. And then we draw an Endurance, which is useful. So the reason we end on the Cavernous Souls there is to set up for a turn or two where we're going to be able to to Titan. So we can't Titan next turn currently, but we can Endurance not next turn either. Let's see. Soon though. I think we do want to set this up for Titan, but we can't currently Endurance with how we're sequenced, which is awkward. Forest must have been like the craziest draw there actually. Because now, I mean, we don't have to commit a T-West, and we can hold up Endurance. I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. It was just like an Endurance or not. But either way, we were tightening the following turn because we could just play T-West. But this way, we can T-West into Bounce Land, Titan the following turn, and it's uncounterable. And then we have a Summoner's Pact for another one. They play Emry. I think when they get in the Emry, we are going to shock in the Endurance, or not shock in the Endurance. We're going to play the Endurance when they go to combat, to just get rid of what Emry put in. Why we kept in the Bog, why we put in the Endurance post-board. Sorry, I guess I didn't show the sideboard in this game, but I know the game's just like pretty fast. They Unholy Heat it, which is fine. It's going to get rid of the stuff from them if the game went on any longer. But this turn we're going to win. So, really easy here. We just get to play our Titan. They have no mana up. They could have a Force, but we have an uncounterable Cavern either way. So, I mean, Force of Negation doesn't even do anything, but also we have the uncounterable Cavern. Give it haste to attack with. And then we even have a Summoner's Pact for next turn if we need another one, which is awesome. I get here. I just get Valakut Growth Chamber. I think that's just to allow myself to have a Dryad turned on, but also now I could pick up anything really. Well, I guess I can cycle the T-West next turn this way. So I pick up the Cavernous Soul so I can give myself another uncounterable card. And then having the two Growth Chambers in play lets me cycle the Teleria West, so I could get another pact if I needed one. But this feels pretty over. Thoughtcast. The Endurance still went off, so, I mean, they don't have Delirium. Their Emry doesn't have any good targets right now. Expressive Iteration is obviously a great card, but Spike doesn't see anything, packs it in, and that is our third match of the league. So, okay. So this is game 4. This is the first game I play today. I'm just killing time, basically. Hope is going back to Boston on the train. I make a pretty huge mistake here, which I don't think I would make in paper, which is fine. You know, John's, whatever you want to call it. I know it's John's. There's a pretty big mistake this game. And I literally, like, talked myself through how I can win this game. And I think I had a winning line, but I just misclicked. So I'm going to show you guys what happens. We're going to play it out. We do go first. And we have a good hand. Turn 1 Amulet of Vigor. Well, you can't complain. Forced Amulet of Vigor. Perfect. Well, this is the kind of, like, stock photo hand you want for Titan. It's, like, only missing a bounce land. Like, if you could say anything about this hand, it would be, like, give it a bounce land, but this hand is, like, perfect. Bloodstained Mire for Blood Crypt. I thought they were scam. When I saw that at first, like, Bloodstained Mire into Blood Crypt feels like scam just nowadays is, like, the most prevalent thing. And then they Rift Bolt me. So, I'm like, oh, it's burn. Can't be anything else, it's burn. But I'm, like, really surprised by the Blood Crypt, because normally they splash white. I didn't make the connection about what that means, but it's not a huge deal. So, have the Amulet of Vigor, play the Valakut so we can get that in play early since we have the Dryad in our hand, and then we just Explore cycle here. Don't find anything that good, but we do find one of the best cards against burn. Normally, I hold the Grazers for a little bit, just because Grazer is really good at like cheating extra mana to play sometime when you have an Amulet in play. I have a Japanese Grazer in paper, which is awesome. But let me tell you one thing. If there is one aggro killer, it is this stupid, dorky little O3. This boy. Let me see if I can. Let me just shut off my ring light here. This stupid, dopey little guy is the killer of aggro decks. He is so good against aggro decks. And that's the reason why I play him. When I normally would wait, is that uh, if it's an aggro deck, if they spend a Rift Bolt, I want this in play to block Ragavan, Monastery Swiftspear, Soulscar Mage, Goblin Guide. You know, options go on. And we don't have another land up in play, but we have 3 lands to play. We can play our Dryad next turn. Have the Titan, have the Summoner's Pact. Feeling pretty good. Rift Bolt me. We play the Dryad, and nothing else going on. Just passing. Watching stuff go down here. You know, opponent doing really basic burn stuff, right? End stop, Boros Charm you. Very basic. Mardu burn. Sure, why not? Bump in the Night is what ends up being the reason they are Mardu. They're splashing for Bump in the Night, it looks like, which, you know, fair enough. Draw another land. So here I can cycle for a bounce land, which assuming I do, because I can. So here I think is where I mess up. So I'll talk you through what I'm thinking right now, since it's paused. So I draw that. With Dryad, I have the triple blue, or 2 blue and colorless, to play the T-West. So I can cycle a T-West for a bounce land. And then afterwards, I have 4 mana because I have Amulet of Vigor and Dryad in play, right? I have 2 land drops if I get a bounce land. And so that's just short of a Titan. But since I already have a Summoner's Pact in hand, and I have a Boreal Grazer. By the way, a Boreal Grazer does not let me Titan, because I spend 1 mana to gain 1 mana. I would have 4 mana, play a Boreal Grazer. I have 1 blue. Like say I get Summon Growth Chamber, right? I get Summon Growth Chamber. Play it twice. Use 1 of it. I have 1 green, 2 blue floating, 3 mana total. To get 5 mana in, it's not enough. But I can Summoner's Pact for an Azusa or something. I can Summoner's Pact for some kind of creature. And with the bounce land from Tolaria West, I haven't played a land drop yet, so I have 2 land drops right now. I can get into play with like a Azusa or something, a Titan. Because if I spend 3 mana to get Azusa, so let me start over. So with that idea in mind, now that I've explained everything, let me start over. I cycle for a bounce land. I get 4 mana. Summoner's Pact for Azusa. Use 3 of that mana. I get 2 more land drops. So I net 5. Alright, cut that. Let me start over. So let me think through this. This is really complicated, by the way, but I think I had the win. I just messed it up really bad. So I have 5 mana. So 3 mana for Azusa. I have 1 mana floating. So I have 5 total, and then a Boreal Grazer. Yeah. So I fetch for, I packed for Azusa. I have 1 green mana floating after casting Azusa, because I have 4 mana in play from Dryad and lands. I have to play 2 more lands. So I end up with 5. I spend 1 of it to get the Grazer into play. Grazer lets me Titan. So I empty my hand. I have no other cards, but I get Titan, and then I win. So I think, okay, cycle a T-West, get a bounce land. I get a Summon Growth Chamber. Perfect. I order it wrong, because it's my first game of the day. I order it wrong, but I had the win. This is absolutely a win, assuming they don't have a pact or anything. And I'm just like, oh my god, my whole plan is ruined. So I put the Growth Chamber in my hand, and I'm really, really sad. Because now I also can't... I can potentially Titan next turn, but I'm still in a pretty bad spot. And then they have 3 One mana burn spells, and I deserve that loss, I guess, because I misordered my trigger. It was my first game I played that day. I almost didn't want to share this, but I messed up. I'll talk about the sideboard plan because it's nothing crazy against burn. Um, I put in the engineered explosives and the turn the earths because the turn the earths gain life, and I just take out the cavern of souls because I can't counter anything. So that was that game. Really bad play. Could have won there, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I would have just died anyways, honestly, remembering that the 3 burn spells. But, I mean, I also could have gotten Radiant Fountain, and then I don't think I lose, but we'll see. So, this hand is also pretty good because it's a turn 1 Boreal Grazer, and I also have Amulet of Vigor. Sorry, turn 1 Amulet of Vigor, and I have a Boreal Grazer, which is a killer against these burn decks. And I have Turn the Earth to also gain life. Turn the Earth isn't like the perfect card here. This is one of the newer cards I was experimenting with in this league. But Turn the Earth is really useful because you can also cycle back lands into their deck, like fetch lands I can put back into their deck, which are basically just dead draws for them. And it gains me the 2 life with flashback. So if this is, gain 4 life at a certain point, get rid of the flashback cards in their yard, get rid of like delirium targets if they're playing like Darcy, which I kind of doubt, but you never know. It could be useful. It could, it does. It has won me games putting lands back into their deck and then just gaining the 4 life over time. So we just play the Amulet turn 1, nothing crazy, just with our Forest. They go Goblin Guide, and I'm just gonna say, I said it before. Even if we don't draw this Amulet here, why is it still playing? I want it to stop. I want it to stop. I want it to stop. Okay. I'm gonna put a Dryad into play here, but even if I don't draw this Amulet, I have a Dryad in play. After I get the Dryad down, I also get to put in an Boreal Grazer. And how is this Goblin Guide attacking after that? You know what I mean? I'm in such a good spot after that. I stabilize like crazy. So get the Dryad into play. After returning the Boros Garrison, I get to play in an Amulet of Vigor now, but I also have the chance of putting in the Boreal Grazer if I want. But now I have 2 Amulets in play, and I can Titan next turn with the 2 Amulets in play, so it just seems like the best option ever. I think they even have interaction here. Yeah, they have a Smash to Smithereens. The Goblin Guide can't attack, but so I'm stopping here before it goes too crazy. Sometimes it feels like it's delayed where it will like not stop when I want it to, but it's okay. Because a Dryad's in play, these are both forests, so even though this is colorless, I can tap it for a forest. So I have green, and this is just 4 mana, 4 colorless, the 4 generic for Titan. Even with the still 1 Amulet in play, I can Titan down, basically. And with Titan down, I think that's just enough to save for them, and they just scoop it up. I do bounce the Garrison in my hand, it looks like. Oh, no, I do. Okay, I was going to say. So this is the correct sequencing. You want to make sure you leave the Boros Garrison in play, because Boros Garrison in the Sunhome, or sorry, not the Sunhome, the Slayer Stronghold is the attacking with Vigilance and Haste combo. If I leave the Sunhome in play, I can't attack with Titan this turn, but I can go Vesuva, Slayer Stronghold, and still attack with Titan this turn. And then just bounce the Vesuva to my hand. But they don't need to see that. We win very quickly this game, even through the Smash to Smithereens, just because we drew the second Amulet. But I mean, if I'm being realistic, I don't think the second Amulet mattered a ton. Like I still probably would have won, but getting the Dryad into play and then a Boreal Grazer down, it's really hard for them to win. Like I have a 2/4 and an 0/3. I only block the 0/3 to the 2/2. They're not going to attack with it because it draws me a card. Most of the time, I have 30 lands in this deck. It's a really good position. It was a little lucky, but really good position either way. And then so this is game 3. Really punted game 1. Obviously, I mean, I misclicked or whatever, missequenced, whatever you want to call it. First game I played. I was very focused after that, though. And so this is my hand going second. Do I keep this? Yes, I do. This is very good because I get to go Saga, Amulet, beautiful stuff. See a Primeval Titan on top. 3 Primeval Titans in hand and a Summoner's Pact. Kind of nuts. Need lands to get there. What am I saying? This is great. I just have to not die, right? You just have to not die. But I have my payoffs. We have the Amulet in play. They have like really good counterplay to us. Obviously, they could like Wear Tear me or something. They could, I don't know what cards they're playing in Mardu. They're playing Bump in the Night. I don't know what that means. Maybe Bump in the Night is the only spell they're flashing for, but they could still have like Wear Tear or something to blow up the enchantment. Let's just see how this plays out. What do I do here? Suspend a Rift Bolt, swing at me, and bolt me. I don't draw a card, but I see a second Amulet of Vigor again. Oh my god, that's crazy. So with second Amulet drawn, this is a really quick kill on Titan because I get to wish for the Azusa. I use one of my land drops to play the Azusa, net a mana because she costs 3 and I'm getting 4. But then I get 8 mana off of Azusa's, and then I'm just able to play all 3 Titans here. So I'm just going to let this run. But with 2 Amulets in play, I can Summoner's Pact for Azusa here and go crazy. And I'm able to cast all 3 Titans from here. So part of what I spend on the clock here, as you'll see my clock kind of wear down, is just what lands I want to set myself up for Titan, where I don't like kill myself. Because the most I could... the most I can attack with is twice with 2 amulets, so I have to think about how I want to set myself up for future turns. I feel like I play Titan pretty fast, if I'm being honest. It's just a lot of, like, it's really slow on Magic Online sometimes, but, I mean, I'm just able to get all 3 here and, like, put myself in a pretty unlosable position. But, I mean, my thought process was also, like, if I can't win this turn, I want to make sure that I have, like, lands in play and I just can't lose, but they pack it up before they see it. Next turn, I can Boros Garrison, Slayer Stronghold, and swing twice, and I win really fast. But that is match 4. We are 4-0 right now in this league. I'm really happy with how I played the 5th game after like really punting game 1 here. Match 5, I'm really excited to show you guys. So this is the final game. This is the final boss. My opponent was super, super nice here. I really liked. We talked like a little bit towards the end of the game. They were super nice. We do go first, which is what you love to see on Titan. And let's see what we start with. I wish it was a little slower. Yeah, I'm gonna restart. Ah, okay. So we started here. Let's see what are starting in this. That's all I want to see. We have Urza Saga, Bojuka Bog. We have no green source, no direction here, nothing really to accelerate ourselves. I see why I mulligan this now that I can actually view the hand. The second hand has Amulet, which we like to see. I order my cards a lot on Magic Online. I don't know if you guys do, but I do. Cavernous Souls, Boseiju. And so this is a good hand. You have a Titan payoff. You have an Amulet to get you there. And so it's really just a matter of what you want to put back. There's an argument for putting back the Forest, which I don't think I do. I think my main consideration when I played this game a couple hours ago is I was thinking about if I want to put back Boseiju or Cavern of Souls, because they both do very different jobs, but they're kind of like your tech lands. Cavern of Souls really good in some matchups, Boseiju really good in some matchups. They're really not good in the same matchups. I think I ended up putting back Cavern of Souls because I just think Boseiju is more useful. Just as a land drop, like it's just an untapped forest for Explore. And then also, it's just useful against a lot of stuff. Like blowing up a land is really useful in some matchups. Blowing up an enchantment is really useful in some matchup. Artifacts. I think it just has more hits than Cavern of Souls, which I've boarded out I think like pretty much every game this league. And so I do board back the Cavern of Souls. So I can play Forest into Amulet of Vigor, Gruul Turf and Exploration next turn. And so you see the Ornithopter come out from my opponent. Very clearly some kind of like Hammer Time deck, right? Off to a pretty strong start, honestly. The Springleaf Drum, the Ornithopter, the Skarta's Aid, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, thank god it wasn't Hallowed Fountain turn 1, because I would have felt so bad if I put back the Cavern of Souls. But having the Boseiju against this deck is amazing. So I think, let's see what we draw. So we draw a second Prime Time. With the Gruul Turf and the Amulet in play, we have options here. So we can cycle the Gruul Turf. They're tapped out here, so we don't have to worry about anything. We can cycle the Gruul Turf to like find another card, and then the second time we put down Gruul Turf after the Explore, worst case, we can Boseiju something. So we find Dryad. So we can play Dryad and then Gruul Turf again. But then you're kind of in this awkward position now where I don't have another bounce land, right? So drawing Dryad is great. It's a 3-mana spell. It lets me play another Gruul Turf, accelerate my board a little bit, and then next turn I have 4 mana potentially. But if I leave myself in a position where I have an untapped Gruul Turf to instant speed Boseiju, then I don't have a bounce land. Bounce lands when you have Dryad and Amulet are insane because the bounce land is 4 mana. It just picks itself up once. So play it, pick itself up, play it, pick itself up. You have 4 mana there. So I don't want to leave myself in a position where I don't have a bounce land next turn. But, the instant speed Boseiju sounds good. But I think it's more worth it to give myself the bounce land in hand. So I'm more likely to have the ability to play one of these 2 Titans in like a turn or 2. So I think what I do is I play the Dryad, and then I will float the mana one last time with the Gruul Turf, and I'll pick it up just so I can play the Boseiju. Yeah, so I do channel the Boseiju to get rid of the Sigarda's Age while they're tapped out so they can't flash in a hammer. And then just hope that they don't have another way to equip hammer, and then they go Pure Steel. They do have the stuff for it right now, which is very unfortunate for me. So they find the Pure Steel, have the Shadow Spear, have the Colossus Hammer, on top of the Sigarda's Aid, and I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty bad spot here. They equip it all onto the Ornithopter and get to hit me for a fat chunk here. They get to swing for 11 with Lifelink on their second turn. But I'm also off to a pretty good start, honestly. So I can't sell myself out too early. I was pretty like game's over. Like that's a really good start. Like what can I do? But then we'll go into my turn here. They equip it onto the Pure Steel. I get a Summoner's Pact. No, don't stop. Why does it do that? Okay. I think it just showed the Summoner's Pact resolving, but that was really fast. I was in the tank for like a minute and a half here, thinking about what I wanted to do. So, kind of remembering our past game where we messed it up. This time we will not mess it up. With Azusa, I can Titan. So I can go bounce land, 4 mana. Play Azusa. I have 1 mana floating. I have 1 mana left over. So with the 2 mana from this forest and then the 1 remaining from this 4 interaction, I can play Azusa, leave Azusa in play with Dryad in play, and then I'll have 6 mana to cast the Titan. So I get to play Titan, untap it, swing with it, with haste and vigilance and whatever, and then get 2 more lands off of it, which I do. Off of the pact. So keep in mind I also paid a pact here, so I have to make sure that next turn I can pay the pact. So play Azusa. You'll see this whole thing. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. 1, 2, 3. And that's my last land I can play this turn. This time I do end on the forest because I have to pay for the pact. And since I'm tightening, I'm definitely going to have a bounce land or something. So I'm not as worried about not having the bounce land. Now I just have to make sure I have the mana in play to pay for pact. So the first Titan hit is easy. We want to swing with haste so we get more lands and also hit them for 8. Remember, that hit 31. So we have more life to work down here. So you grab those 2. Pretty easy choice. And we have to bounce something back with Boros Garrison. I think we bounce back Slayer's Stronghold here. Just because it's more mana. We have 4 in play. But so we give Titan Haste, and we do bounce back to Slayer's Stronghold. Swing with both here because, again, we have a huge life total deficit to work through. We can't really play for much at this point. We kind of have to win soon. So now this is a difficult position. It's gonna show the resolve. I hate that so much. I wanted it to. I shouldn't have hit play, I guess. I wanted to show you guys the library of lands I had to work with. So I end up going with Simic, Growth Chamber, and Boseiju. The reason for this is because I can't get Growth Chamber because I need a way to deal with what they're doing. I need also in play enough mana to pay for Pact, but I also want to Titan next turn, so I'm in a pretty complicated position. Unfortunately, I can't kind of have it all here. I have to get a bounce land and a Boseiju so I can kill the Shadow Spear, right? Like, I want the Boseiju in play in case they have another Titan, or in case they have another hammer or something. If they have another hammer, I can't just chump block anymore, right? I can't just block and go to, like, whatever. But also they're going to gain, like, 13 life even if I do that. I also don't want to throw away the Titan, so I have to Boseiju. Boseiju is my best line here. I have one more Boseiju in the deck. Channeled the first one for the Sigarda's Aid. To pick up the Boseiju, I need the bounce land. So I can't have it all as far as setting myself up to Titan next turn, because right now I won't be able to, it looks like, because I don't have a bounce land in hand. So I might have made a slight mistake on the Slayer Stronghold, but I have to pay for the Pact, and I have to be able to answer the Shadow Spear, because the Shadow Spear is what's really stopping me here. So I'm going to leave these untapped, leave the Simic Growth Streamer untapped, and just pick up the Boseiju, hit them for 10, and then it's their turn. So on their turn, things to look out for. So they can make a Constrict, which is bad. I do have the Boseiju in hand, which they know about. But keep in mind that they have lifelink, so I have to target the Shadow Spear. If they just swing with like this, I can block with Titan and then blow up the hammer, and I kill their Pure Steel Paladin. If they have another hammer, though, I have to blow up the Shadow Spear and chump Azusa. If I chump Azusa, I cannot for sure Titan next turn because it's harder. Like I just have like 2 less Dragon drops. But so they do tutor for a Colossal Hammer here, and they equip it onto the Pure Steel. And so now they have, a 23-23 with Trample. Luckily, they kept it on the Pure Steel, which was pretty fortunate. And then play the Esper Sentinel. Luckily, Boseiju is a busted card. It's an activated ability. It's not a spell. So, sorry, Azusa. You did your job. You allowed us to Titan the previous turn, but you have to go. So we get rid of the Trample, and we have Azusa take a whopping 22-22 for the team. Put it on the Esper Sentinel, which makes sense, and play Sigarda's Aid. They're out of cards now, but next turn they can get another hammer off of the Urza Saga, so I have to win this turn, basically. I have to pay for Pact, and I have to tap like this, because these are the only green sources I have. So, I draw Vesuva, which is a pretty decent draw. I don't know if it's like the perfect draw, but it's pretty good. So, I'm in a position now where I have to think like, okay, how do I deal with how do I kill them? Because if they get another hammer next turn and they have the Pure Steel in play, like I just can't think of a way I win at that point. With the Sigarda's Aid and stuff, like they just get to equip it on an Ornithopter or something. I would have to hold back all my blockers. So sequencing is really important here. I think I have to swing with the first Titan and then play the second Titan afterwards. I don't have another Boseiju in my deck at this point to use, so I know that going into what I'm doing here. But with the Vesuva, I'm at least able to pick up a bounce land and go Titan here, right? I'm able to Titan first because of this, but I'm not able to. Oh, I see what I'm doing. So I'm not able to attack with them, but I am able to play the second Titan, which is good because of the Vesuva. So there's no way I can Slayer Stronghold and attack right now. Like with this one, I can't attack with haste with this one, but I can get the Valakut, get 2 more lands, attack with Prime Time. So what do I get here? I get 2 Vesuvas, and then I'm looking at what I can get here. So 2 lands is obvious because I want to be able to. So remember, I have to kill them this turn, right? Because of the Sigarda's Aid and the Saga that's going to tick off. I can't kill them with the Titan at this point because they have a 21-21. They have something bigger than Titan. So I have to kill them with Valakuts. So I get 2 Valakuts off of this Titan entering the battlefield. And then I'm looking at my hand and I'm like, okay, so how do I deal with how do I deal more damage with Valakut? Because Valakut's going to deal 12 damage when these 2 lands enter. 2 for each land, or 6 for each land that enters. They're going to be at 8. So I need to be able to deal even more damage. So I haven't played a land per turn yet. But I can, my thought process is get a bounce land, get a T-West, blue, even float the T-West. I can get another, what's it called? I can get an Arboreal Grazer, and the Arboreal Grazer can allow me to play the extra land. I could have maybe just won a lame way, but I think I just did this the cool way. Like I think I could have just played land. No, 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 no. I used all my land. Okay, okay, no, no, no. I actually had to do this the way I did. Okay, perfect. I feel more validated now. I played all my lands the turn before to play the second Titan. See, this is a really tricky spot to win. Like I don't know if I could win if I had to do this again, but I'm actually really happy with how I played this. So what you're seeing right now is what I was talking about. I grabbed the T West, and I have these Valakits in play. I'm gonna untap the Simic Growth Chamber, pick up the Boros Garrison or whatever, after the Valakits deal 12 damage. So the Valakits are gonna deal 12 damage. Can I just say yes to these? Let's go. No? Okay, whatever. So let this play out. So the damage is going to happen. Untap this. Return something to my hand. Doesn't matter. They chump this. The Titans are useless at this point as far as dealing damage. I can tap this, right? And I have exactly enough to get a Boreal Grazer to kill them. So Transmute, Summoner's Pact. I don't pay for it, but I have 1 mana left over. I don't have another land drop. But I can a Boreal Grazer in the Vesuva for another Valakut. For just enough damage to kill them. I think that game was awesome. I think that game was really, really cool. Just showing how strong Titan can be. That is a hard spot. I don't know if I explained it really well because it was really complicated. But like that is not like an easy cookie cutter Titan line in my opinion. I think all of my I think I even could have played that better. But I think all of my fetching with Titan was pretty important there. Like fetching for the Boseiju specifically to target the Shadow Spear, and then throwing away the Titans just for land drops and kind of just giving up on the attacking with damage phase, but going face. Because we did a lot of damage in that game. We used exactly all of our mana that turn to kill them. We didn't have any more land drops to make. The Grazer did it. The champion did it. And that's how we were able to win that game, by just going over the face once we chunked in the Titans for lands. The Vesuva in our hand was awkward for a lot of it, but it ended up being like good for us to win with. Because if we had the Vesuva in our deck, we could have fetched it off of the first Titan to allow us to attack with both of them. So we could have gotten 2 more lands potentially, and then it probably would have been an easier win. But with the Vesuva in hand, we had to make do. But I'm still really happy with how that turned out. Against their deck, I think I bring in the Engineered Explosives, the extra Boseiju, and the Forces of Vigors. Probably just cutting the Cavern of Souls and like the Expedition map or something. But so let's see what happens in the next game. So we lose a die roll, we go second because we won game 1. And our hand is pretty good. We have 2 Boseijus, which is awesome. Playing the first Boseiju out early is kind of free because we can pick it up. They're a little awkward when you have both because of the legend rule. But these are just spells, basically, in these games. They're like land drops early game, and then they turn into spells. That's really, really hard for Hammer Time to interact with because it's a channel ability. So we keep this for sure. Sigarda's Aid, turn 1, which is fine. And then we lead on the Boseiju. So we can go Urza Saga next turn to explore. So just talking about some of the sequencing we could have done there. We could have theoretically played Valakut turn 1, and then had it just to get it in play. And then we could have played the Boseiju turn 2 to explore. But I think that line was worse than just Boseiju Urza Saga, because Boseiju's Urza Saga lets us explore, play the Selesnya Sanctuary, and then pick up the Boseiju. But also, we have the option of keeping the Explorer in our hand if we have to pitch it to Force of Vigor. If we play Boseiju Urza Saga, we have the ability to get the amulet faster, and also we're leaving ourselves with more Boseijus. Like we're giving us the option to Force of Vigor when we need to early, and then grind the Boseijus later, which I think is more useful. So that's why I didn't play Valakut there. The first land drops are really important in Titan. So they get Colossus Hammer. So they have Sigarda's Aid, Stoneforge Mystic. So I think their turn is pretty obvious what they're going to do. Drawing the second Valakut isn't ideal because you want them in your deck, but it's fine. That just kind of means, I mean, it doesn't look like we're in a position where we can realistically Dryad them right now. So it's not like a huge, like, oh my god, like unreal, you know what I mean? Like, we're not really in a position where Dryad was our winning position now. So in this position, you see my opponent has a Sigarda's Aid, they pitch a Colossus, they grab the Colossus Hammer, and they have a Stoneforge Mystic in play. They're probably going to swing at me for 10. maybe 20. If they have a second Stoneforge Mystic, I could die. So I think to myself, okay, I need to get the Urza Sagas down now, because I need to be able to win soon. If they swing at me for 10 for 2 turns, I can't win. Because if they go Sigarda's Aid, Hammer, and I force, and they have like Blacksmith skill, then they still connect for 11. They can hit me for 11 again next turn. If they go Hammer, Hammer, I'm happy because I get to Force of Vigor both their hammers, but they still have a Sigarda's Aid. So I assume the Urza Sagas here, then the Explore, and I hold up the Force of Vigor just with Primeval Titan if I have to. So I play the Urza Saga, I Explore, and I draw another Primetime, which is awesome because I don't even want to play that. I play the Valakut just to get it out now. I can't play Boseiju because of the Legend rule. Selesnya Sanctuary doesn't make sense here. I don't want to bounce any of these. I need a green source. I want the Urza Saga to take down. It can make a chump blocker for this, potentially, with a Construct. It can find me the Amulet. But Selesnya Sanctuary will reset that timer. It's also good to keep bounce lands in your hand in case you draw an Amulet. You want the ability to like bounce land loop, basically, potentially. I don't want to give up the possibility of that currently seeing in the position. And now with the second Primetime drawn, I can force pitch second Primetime, which is like one of the best things to force pitch, honestly, because I only need the one. So my opponent goes off here. Let's see what they do. So they fetch, get a Plains, and they play a Pure Steel Paladin. So they have a little bit of redundancy here with Sigarda's Aid and the Pure Steel Paladin, but it's fine. If they play the Hammer here and equip it to the Stoneforge Mystic, they draw a card, but they don't have Metalcraft yet, which is good. Right, 1, 2. Yes, they don't have Metalcraft yet. They do draw the card. So they have to equip it to Stoneforge and then swing with the Stoneforge. I am going to pitch. Destroying the Memnite had some possibility because they already didn't have the... what's it called? They already didn't have Metalcraft, so there was some like idea to destroying the Memnite there. But I think just destroying the Sigarda's Aid gives me a lot of options because I don't want them to flash in enchantments. Even though they have another way to equip, I think just like playing... I think the possibility for them to like end of turn like flash in enchantments was just too scary. And I think getting Metalcraft with 3 cards in their hand is just so trivial, especially when they're going to draw cards for like, what's the card? Paradise Mantle or whatever. Like it's just so trivial for them at this point where I don't even think it's worth destroying the Memnite to do. I just decided it's not worth it and it's more important to take out the Sigarda's Aid. But when they don't have Metalcraft, it is kind of tempting. So we can't go off this turn because we don't have the Amulet. Next turn we can go off, and now we can hold up Boseiju. So that's all the thinking is here. Not playing the Boreal Grazer, so we can put the bounce land into play an extra time, is basically what's happening here. And we can potentially hold it for like a bigger creature at some point, but I don't think it matters. Inkmoth is very important to know that they have, by the way, because... So they have Inkmoth. They're going to fetch for a Hammer here, we assume with Stoneforge. But that means they can win next turn, so I have to be careful. Not only can a Boreal Grazer block shit with Reach, but also the Infect will kill us. So it's really good to have the Boreal Grazer here against this. Boseiju is another great way to deal with that, though. So I assume they fetch in their Hammer here. They do fetch in their Hammer and an Esper Sentinel. So their last card is Hammer. They draw a card. Well, sorry. So one of their last cards we don't know. They draw a card off of Hammer, and they get to swing here. We're gonna Boseiju blow up the Hammer just so they can't equip it with Inkmoth next turn. So we don't make a Construct here. Oh no, I do just make a Construct actually. Man, I'm saving this Boseiju. So smart. Past me was so smart. So now we have 2 Boseijus. That makes sense honestly. So we can float this, get the Amulet, Selesnya Sanctuary, play the Primeval Titan, and then we can hold up double Boseiju next turn actually. With how I played this, right? Azusa just makes this like redundant because Azusa, like if we don't play any lands and we have Azusa with an Amulet, we just have 6, so we just get to make another Titan, which is great. And we get to end the cycle picking up the second Boseiju, which is what I was just talking about. So now we get to give it Trample. We get to give the Primetime Vigilance and Haste. We get to swing at them. They don't know about the second Boseiju, which is very good. So we can blow up their Hammer after they go to block here, after picking up some more stuff. So we just get Growth Chamber. The reason for Growth Chamber is just so we can we have more mana, obviously, but also we can use both Besejus even if they remove the Azusa. There is some argument, I think, to getting a Teleria West here, which I think would have been slightly better, but I think double Beseju is pretty important, and if we get T West Simic Growth Chamber, we can only use one Beseju here, and I think pushing this damage here is pretty important when they're at 17. So we just pick up the Valakut, and then we blow up the Colossal Hammer here. We've worked through 2 Colossal Hammers, by the way, now, so there's not many left in their deck, was my thought process when I did this. They Diabolic Intent, and I'm like, oh my god, Diabolic Intent. That's sick, by the way, in this deck. I think that is so cool. But so they Diabolic Intent, and I'm like, oh, I mean, it's the Hammer Time deck. What are they going to Diabolic Intent for? It's another hammer, of course. So they have another hammer. And they have enough mana to animate, right? And then they have another land to animate and then give it this again. I didn't play the Arboreal Grazer because I wanted to hold up the Beseju. Which I honestly could have just played the Arboreal Grazer, but I thought, like, oh, it might just be good to save it for later. But, like, it might have been nice in case they had a Blacksmith skill. But here, the second one, he said, wow, had them both games, you're on 3. It's one sideboard, it's 2-3, whatever. Really nice opponent at the end of the game. From there, I mean, they can't win. I'm going to untap with this hammer next turn and kill them. They're out of mana, so I'm very clearly winning from this position. This is the 5-0, but my opponent was really nice. We just chat at the end. And they were just like, oh, yeah, I was definitely on a hot streak, 5-0 this league. But yeah, so that was the league. That was 5-0. I'm really happy with how I played these 2 games, especially game 1 of this. I think I played really well. There's always room for improvement, obviously. And I even like watching my replay was really insightful, and it was nice to watch the replay. Like, I normally don't, even though the client is kind of terrible, because it gave me like better insight on the plays I was making. But I mean, I like Titan. It's kind of boring to play Magic Online sometimes, just because like I feel like I play pretty fast, but like 11 minutes on clock here is just like clicking through game actions. You know what I mean? Like it just takes a while to order all this stuff sometimes. But I had a really good time. I haven't uploaded a Magic video to my YouTube yet. I've played Magic on my Twitch before, but I hope you guys liked it. If you do, leave a comment. I don't have a lot of like viewership, obviously. So if you did like it and you have like you want to see more of it, or you want to see like just like a live video of me doing it instead of like a replay analysis, let me know. Also, if there's like a deck you want to see me play, let me know. But yeah, this is a 5-0. I hope you guys enjoyed. Any questions about Titan, feel free to ask me, leave a comment, whatever. I'm on, message me on Twitch, whatever. Anything works. I would be happy to answer any kind of questions. But I hope everyone has a great day. Hope you guys enjoyed the league. Have a great rest of your day.